When you're considering a battery storage solution, one thing you have to bear into mind is making sure you can use it every day easily. Powerwall has a great app for that, and today we're going to take a deep dive into how you use it, how to read the data from it, and ultimately what you can use it for day to day to get the most out of the product. So when you first open the app, you're presented with this screen here. And this screen essentially shows what's going on at the home at a given time. And in this case, we've got a solar PV in the roof generating around about 2.3 kilowatts. The battery is at 77% and it's charging at 2.3 kilowatts. The house is using no kilowatts or no energy whatsoever, and nothing's going to the grid. So we can see a prime example now why battery storage is so important. You've got the house that's using basically no energy whatsoever. However, the roof is still generating energy which you have no control over. If the sun is shining, the energy will be generated from the roof and it will eventually go to the storage. If you didn't have the storage, this energy would then pass straight to the grid, which you might get paid nothing for at all. We can see now on our app that the roof is actually generating 2.8 kilowatts now. The house is using 0.3, so something's turned on. However, the energy is being split between the Powerwall and the house. So that means that Powerwall still sees that some energy needs to go to it. The house doesn't need the full amount either, which is the main thing. Just down from the main menu then, you've got 5 sub-menus, and each of those have different references and you can look at different things within them. So you've got energy, impact, settings, go off grid, and support. Now, support is just if you need help, but generally speaking, you can always call us and we'll speak on your behalf with Tesla. Go off grid allows you to completely disconnect your home or your business from the grid remotely via the app. Energy though is where the main information is. So if we go into that now, you can see here that this Powerwall that we're looking at today was installed around about May last year. So it's been in for roughly a year at time of writing. And you can get a full data band of what the home has done specifically. So if we start with the home is essentially your house, what your energy uses, how you use it, and where it comes from. In this case, because it's been roughly a year, we can see that 29% has come from Powerwall discharge, 29% has come from actual solar generation, so energy that's been generated from the roof and put directly into your home when it's been generating. And a 42% offset has come from the grid. So in this particular circumstance, a lot is still coming from the grid. So it may be worth considering more storage to get that off-peak time up, because you got to remember that solar generates the least when you need it the most, which is during winter time. So you could argue that in this case, another Powerwall might be beneficial. The final thing to consider with this energy page is being able to split this up into different time sections throughout the year. So in this section, we're looking at the year, but if you click on the little drop-down menu, you can see it can be split daily, monthly, yearly like we are now, the lifetime, which is since it was installed, and you can set a custom date to your pleasing. This is really important because you can see it how you're getting on during a certain period. If you think the energy consumption is high, you can reference it against your smart meter if you think your smart meter readings are wrong. When you're looking at it from a point of view of daily consumption, it's really crucial to kind of look at this and start to understand your energy consumption and how you can get the most out of it. Moving across to the Powerwall section, we've got a little bit more information directly about the battery and how it's been charged and discharged. So at the top, we can see that it's discharged just over 1,000 kilowatt hours and it's charged 1,200 kilowatt hours for 2023. And then down at the bottom, we've got the splits between how it's been used. So 100% home basically means that everything that it's charged has gone to the house. Nothing has gone back to the grid. So nothing's been exported essentially. Charging from solar, that is basically saying that 100% of the energy that has charged the battery has come from the solar. So in this case, very, very little has been charged off peak. So perhaps this example, the customer is not on an off-peak tariff, which is perhaps why the previous figure we mentioned, the 42% figure, is so high. They're basically not charging at a very good rate during the night to offset the high usage during the wintertime. Moving on to the solar section, this is kind of where you see the typical bell curve of solar in Scotland. 40% of that has gone to the home. So that means that when the solar is actually generating, 40% of the annual generation has gone straight to the house, which is good. It's always a good idea to use it when it's sunny. So turn your dishwasher on, your washing machine, just to make sure you get the most out of it when the sun is shining. And anything that you don't use will go to the storage. Further to this, we can then see that 48%, So a huge chunk of the energy generated is actually gone to the battery storage. And this is why it's so important. If that battery wasn't there, the 12% grid, essentially the amount of energy going back to the grid, would be much, much higher. And it would mean that the self-consumption for the solar would be much less, and the payback period for the solar would be much longer. So making sure you retain the energy you generate for either later use or at time of use is really important. This last section is all about the grid and how much energy you've imported from the grid and how much energy you've exported. And it's a key metric because understanding how much you use, regardless of any renewable solutions, is really important. And it also lets you know year on year how well you're doing. It's kind of a report card for your energy usage annually. So we can see in 2023, 1300 kilowatt hours has been imported and 267 kilowatt hours has been exported. Down below, we can see that 99% of the 1324 kilowatt hours at the top has been used to run the house, whereas only 1% has been used to charge the Powerwall. As we go down to the exported section, you can see that 0% of the energy has come from the Powerwall, whereas 100% of it has come from the solar. And this is normal because the battery is not set to export at all. Making sure you keep your exported amount as low as possible is crucial. And that goes back to having the right amount of solar on your roof for how much you need, not over investing into it to make sure you get the right amount, the right payback time, and ultimately getting the most out of the product. From the home screen now, we'll go into the impact section. And this tells you how well you're getting on throughout the whole year for how much energy you've used, what's gone to waste, and how you're getting on with your storage. So it's essentially described as self-powered. How self-powered are you? And in this case, we're 58% self-powered. So that's split between 29% solar, 29% of it is Powerwall, and 42% of it has come from the grid. So when you split it down to time of use and how it's actually used, you can see the splits there are quite huge. And then you can see the energy value at the bottom there of how much energy you've actually consumed. Moving down to the solar offset, you can see here that 74% of our energy is offset via solar, and that could be from actually directly using it from the sun when it's shining or from storing it. This customer in particular that we're looking at only has a very small electrical usage, like 3,300 kilowatt hours per year. It's quite low. They probably don't have an EV, so they don't have a high usage. So this kind of scenario where you have a small amount of electricity, designing the solar system is really key to make sure that you get the most out of it. Again, in the impact section, you can split it up, and that way you can keep a record of it year on year and make sure you're getting the most out of it over the period of the lifetime. From the home screen now, we'll jump into the settings area. This is where you'll find the bulk of the control settings for your system. If you go into Powerwall at the top, this area has how to control your Powerwall, how to adjust the backup reserve, and how to adjust your utility rate plan or your off-peak tariff. So right at the top, you can see your backup reserve, and this is where you select how much backup you want to have at all times, and essentially controls how much energy you want to retain in the storage at a minimum. So Powerwall will only use down to 20% in this case. So it does that because if you were to have a power cut, it makes sure you always have 20% in the storage at any given time. You can put this down to 0, you can put it up to as high as you want, but 10 to 20% is fair because you don't want to take too much capacity off the storage amount. Going down to operational modes, Powerwall has two modes. You have self-powered or time-based control. Self-powered just allows you to basically use the energy that comes from the sun and nothing else. It won't charge off-peak or off-grid. It won't charge during an off-peak time, and it will only use the energy that you store in it from the sun. Time-based control is kind of the unique selling point when it comes to Powerwall. It has the ability to charge off-peak. It has the ability to make sure that it learns your system. But the main point about it is the fact that it knows the weather for your location 24 hours ahead. And this is really crucial because making sure that you don't charge your battery too much off-peak is one of the most important factors of it. If you take, for example, you're only going to use 60% of the storage next day, and because of your habits being semi-regular, Powerwall knows that, it might only charge up to say 15% overnight. What you'll notice is that Powerwall will be able to charge to 100% and power the house using the solar alone and make sure you don't export anything. And that's purely because of it knowing how much you use, when you use it, how you use the energy, and also knowing the weather 24 hours ahead. It's a completely unique feature of Powerwall. No other brand has it. So it's one of the unique selling points you can say for the product. When you're choosing your electrical tariff, the common ones are available now to kind of offer export, import, daily rate and standing charge. The most common ones are Octopus Flux, Octopus Intelligent, Octopus Intelligent Go, and there's a few others out there. Tesla are bringing their own tariff in time. It's not too far away in the UK, and once it arrives, we hope it to be competitive with the likes of Octopus. And at the beginning, it's only available for Powerwall customers, so you can expect it to be pretty competitive and high-end, tailored for the product specifically. When you're setting your time-based control settings, you select your utility rate plan. You can see this customer of ours is on Octopus Flux, which has a super off-peak time, an off-peak, a peak rate, and then another off-peak. It's essentially you get paid at the cheapest rate and the most expensive rates to import and export, and it varies throughout the day. If we now look at the pricing, you can see the super off-peak price is 16 pence per kilowatt hour. The off-peak price is 28 pence per kilowatt hour, and the peak rate price is 39 pence per kilowatt hour. If we look on the right, you can see the sell prices now. So during the night when it's off-peak, it's 6 pence per kilowatt hour. During the day when it's not between the super off-peak and the peak times, it's 17 pence per kilowatt hour. And then the peak rate between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. is 28 pence per kilowatt hour. So during the summertime when the sun is generating the most and your storage might get full, you can get paid for the energy you export back to the grid at a rate of 28 pence per kilowatt hour, which is not too bad. Going back to what I said though, you can see that the sell price, even at peak rate, is the same importing throughout the rest of the day. And this is why it's so important to retain the energy that you generate, because selling it back doesn't make a huge amount of sense. One of the final features that we're going to cover on the app is Stormwatch. Now, Stormwatch is unique to Powerwall. It allows it to know if there's a storm coming to your local area. Thanks to the weather forecast, it understands 24 hours ahead. And what it basically does is if you have it activated, it will charge Powerwall up fully from the grid. And then whilst the Stormwatch function is on, it won't discharge anything to your house. So that's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is that if you are to have a storm and you aren't aware of it, it makes sure that your house is protected. Your fridge, freezer and such like will have energy and it won't lose it overnight. However, if you forget to turn it off and perhaps the storm has passed, the local weather station might still know that the warning's in place. Powerwall won't discharge to your house. So if you believe that the storm has passed and you can use the Powerwall again, just turn the Stormwatch function off and it'll start performing normal again. That's everything on the app. Now what we're going to do is jump onto Powerhub, which is our back-end support service for you and for all our Powerwall customers to make sure that we can support you during diagnosis, repair, troubleshooting, or getting even more data from your system. When we first load up Powerhub, we have to search for an individual site, and this is one that we've pulled up. This is a customer house that was installed about 1.5 years ago, and you can see it's quite a lot more detailed than your app. On the left, we have overview and the graphing. The overview is this section we're in at the minute, which gives a lot of diagnostics which are relevant to us to make sure things are performing okay, and various other diagnosis tools that we'll have to use to work out if there's a problem with Powerwall or if you call us and you think there's something might be wrong with it. The devices section tells us what devices you have installed, and that's number of Powerwalls, number of gateways, and what meters you've got. And then the customer view is exactly what you see on your app at a given time. So if you call us and you think that something's wrong, we can look at your customer view and see that the connection is correct and get a live view, exactly what you would see, to try and diagnose over the phone what the problem might be. It's a really unique feature to Powerwall because it gives so much support wherever you are in the world. It means that you don't have to be at your home to support you. We can just be remotely at our office or on site elsewhere in the world supporting you with your installation. Another key thing about the customer view is we can see what your individual settings are. We can see your customer settings, your customer features, and your rate plan. So if you thought that you perhaps didn't set up your rate correctly, we can jump in here and have a look at your times and just make sure you've got it all set up as we would want it to in accordance with your electrical tariff. If we move across to the graphing section now, This allows us to look at a lot more detail of specific information, or signals as they're called, about your specific system. At the top here, we can click the start time or the date and the end time, along with date and time, the day range and the time range. And that could be anywhere from last year up to the last 15 minutes. So one of the key things to look at with Powerwall year on year is how much energy you're actually using. So a good example of this is coming to us and we can supply an energy report at a small cost, which can give you a year-on-year report of how much energy is actually going to waste. So we give you an example now of how to work that out. So what we've done here is we've pulled up a 6-month window between the 9th of May till the November the 9th. And we've done this specifically because this is when the solar will generate the most, and then it'll taper off towards the end of the year. On the top graph here, we've got the solar generation at a given point, so the real generation of energy at a given time. And on this graph, we've got the energy being exported at that given time, and they're completely in sync with one another. On the left axis, we've got the power being generated at a given time. This is quite a small solar array, so it's not generating a huge amount even at peak power. And then on the bottom axis, we've got the dates. And on this axis, we've got 6.5 kilowatt hours as the peak amount of export energy. And then the bottom, we've got the dates again. You can see on the left of this graph, the energy generated is pretty consistent, and then it tapers off to the right as it gets into the winter months of the year. And if we scroll down and reference this against the exported energy, you can see that some energy is actually being exported, and this customer only has one Powerwall in, so you could argue that during the months of peak generation, and even filtering off to the right hand side where it's kind of tapering off, you're still exporting some of the energy, so another battery might be worth considering. Built into Powerwall, you've got all these signals that we can use to help you better understand where your energy is going, how you use the product, and ultimately build a portfolio on your energy usage. And due to the resolution of the product, we're able to get a very high level of accuracy and detail about anything that you may want to know about your house. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to join the NEC community.